continue our live coverage of presidential elections. A very tight race till the end as the voting still continues and the polling of the ballots are still being counted. Right now we have Mike Cohen live at the SM North EDSA to give us more updates on what's happening at his end. Mike?
Robert, Princess, we're right now looking at this situation here, Sandy, also that we're looking at the entire electoral process of the U.S. slowly coming down to the wire. And right now, political analyst Ramon Casipe has pretty much his projection and his idea of how it's going based on unofficial and partial exit poll results that are being reported by American television and news organizations in the United States, which are part of a 6-network pool that is generally looking at this information and verifying it together. So let's ask Professor Casipe about this entire situation. What, in your opinion, is the present state, the exit polls and the information you're seeing?
Well, the news so far I've got is that President Obama is winning in the battleground states, particularly Ohio and Florida, and that pretty well ends the whole story. If you're talking trends, the trend is really for Obama. I think the main concern now is will he get the popular vote as well? Because in the close fight, there are possibilities that it may be a tie, it may be a very, very slim either way gain for it's of course the horror story there is if Romney got the popular vote and Obama gets the electoral college vote.
Pero nangyari na po ito dati, recently lang, noong 2000, di ba? Po, yung kay President Bush at ni dating Vice President Al Gore, actually nanalo si Al Gore ng popular vote at si Bush sa election. Can you explain it para sa mga kababayan natin? Anong ibig sabihin itong electoral vote?
Kasi yung American system is a federal one. There are 50 states. So, yung election ginagawa sa state level. Kaya yung popular vote ng individual voters ay ginagawa sa loob ng isang state. They elect electors to what they call the electoral college. May apportionment yan based on congressional district ng state, 538 of them. At itong mga electors, they're supposed to be the ones actually electing the president and the vice president tandem. But what happens here is that the media itself monitors the election at every state and aggregates the results. And so we have a situation where on December 17, doon pa lang ito formally for the presidency and the vice presidency, itong electoral college. Pero alam na natin, even now, I think the trend is already firming up for Obama.
Aside from the trend and these situations, the other reports say the Republicans will retain the whole of the House of Representatives, and while the Democrats will retain the Senate. As far as you can tell, will this hinder President Obama should he become re-elected?
If he cannot control both, then we have a situation where the Republicans are in a position to spoil the second term of President Obama, particularly the House, because that's where the budget process is being completed. And the major problem, of course, is the economic recovery, and that takes a lot of money.
There's a statement from the Republican side na doon lang daw pumasa yung mga magagandang batas ni Pangulong Obama, yung Obamacare, yung nung sila daw pumasok sa House, nung unang 2 taon na hawak na pareho yung House at Senate ng Democrats, wala na masyado na ipasa. So, is that true? Does it also help when another party comes in, it creates a means of consensus that's easier?
Actually, I think the American system will not work kung ang dalawang partido will not reach a consensus on many things. Ang problem ng time, I think, na hawak ng Democrats yung both houses. Pero hindi nila hawak yung decisive majority. So this, in many cases, they still have to work it out with the Republicans. And the Republicans were uncooperative. Even now, even when they are already there, leading the House of Representatives, may problema pa rin. In fact, yan ang problem ng second term. Kung ang second term mag-produce ng decisive na mandate for the President, baka obligado na yung Republicans to on many of the policies that he wants to do. Ang problema pag hindi.
So looking at this, Robert, you get a better picture, of course, with what the analyst has told us. Of course, Robert Casipo is well known about this situation, not only analyzing politics dito po sa atin, kung hindi sa ibang bahagi ng ating mundo. And this is something that's happening more and more. Filipinos are being hired as experts for democracies in Russia, in Europe, in different places. Nagiging parang political analysts for and developers and propagandists even to the world. Do you see more of this happening?
I think so, because except for India, may advantage ang mga Filipinos. They know how to speak English, the international version. They are always in any place you name, the Filipinos are there. So there is a cosmopolitan character to Filipinos that we can easily communicate. And I think in many international organizations, both government and NGOs, including the United Nations, maraming Pilipino kung makikita dyan.
Mike?
Yes, Robert.
Mike, just a question for Mr. Casiple. Just going back a while ago what you were talking about regarding
Popular mahalaga rito siguro natin, tandaan, ang Pilipino sa American politics ay lumalaki na yung papel. We have something like 36 Filipinos or Philams running in this election. At marami din nanalo din.
Yes, I lost you there for a second, Robert. Could you come again with your question?
Yes, Mike, going back to what you and Mr. Casiple were talking about a while ago regarding popular vote and electoral vote, you were saying even though either Obama or Mitt Romney wins an electoral vote but yet loses on popular vote, there's going to be problems in the process in this. Am I right in saying that? And does he see that there's a flaw in the system if that happens?
Like what happened in Florida with the Chads and the problems, what Robert is asking is there going to be a problem if, let's say, Romney gets the popular vote and Obama wins the electoral vote, or vice versa? Does it create a situation where people might not view the results of the election as credible if they don't win both the popular and electoral vote for a candidate? Does it affect?
Well, in 2000 experience, hindi naman nag-resort sa question about the process itself. Yung naging problema pa doon, may real count ba? Bisan the figures are really true. I think in this case, pag mga close fight, mag-expect ka na papasok ng mga abogado. In its state na merong ganung klaseng sitwasyon, I think magiging problema yan by either side. May expectation dyan na merong mga protest cases.
Pag pinakinggan ninyo yung mga reklamo ng iba't ibang it will sound somewhat familiar to past situations that have happened here sa atin. Sa Chicago, may sinasabing may vote buying. May ghost voting daw sa New York. May mga issues of many of these types of, shall we say, shenanigans or anomalies that happen also in our elections here. But a lot of people say this is because Filipinos learned this when they, in the 1900s, went to the States and learned politics firsthand at the American side. May katotohanan po yan, medyo na-import din yung mga shall we say, shenanigans doon dito sa atin din.
Well, hindi. Wala akong alam dyan na may importation kasi ang ating history came from the colonial arrangement. Yung mga dynasty, halimbawa, most of them ay lumitaw kahit panahon pa ng Kastila, meron na. At yung mga kalukuhan sa eleksyon, matagal na rin yan, panahon pa na nagsimula ang eleksyon. Remember yung Tejeros Convention, sinak ni Aguinaldo na tao yung bumuto, kaya nanalo siya. I mean, hindi pa siguro masabing invented dito ng American, yung pagdaraya. Nakuha lamang natin. May sarili tayong weaknesses in our system. Particular, halimbawa, yung political party system. Mahina tayo dyan, wala tayo masyado dyan.
So, sinong mas magaling? Kung sa kalukuhan o yung shenanigans, sa nakikita ninyo sa electoral process nila at electoral process natin dito?
Hands down, I think, mas magaling tayo. Tayo nag-invento ng dagdag bawas. Tayo nag-invento ng mga paggamit mismo ng vote buying, ng kahit yung patayan, Sa atin kasi ang the horse guard parang nagbabadyanggo lang politika rito. Amerika may maturity na, may certain level of maturity. Exception to the rule yung mga bayan sa kanila. Pero rito sa atin, it's part ng strategy. Even for self-defense.
Yeah, when we talk about this, of course, we laugh about it, but it's a serious thing, obviously, Robert, and it's something no one wants to hear about, but it's a reality. It does exist. These types of things do happen. But also, there's something that is unique about this election. Of course, former Governor Romney is of the Mormon faith, which is a minority in the United States. And also, Barack Obama, President Obama, is, his mother is Caucasian. His father was from Kenya and is African American. So you have two minorities going against each other. Going back in history, did you ever think this possible? Going back, let's say, 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
Mahirap pa imagine, na magkaroon ng black president. Remember, yung panahon pa ng civil rights movement, ang pinagawayan pa lang doon yung seating arrangement sa bus. Meron ng segregation. Nobody thought na ganitong kaigsing panahon. 40 years is not a long time. Nakapag-elect ka ng isang black president.
Mike?
It's really a good measure,
Mike?
how American democracy has developed.
Yes, Robert.
Mike, just a quick question on this. As we watch this electoral process go through here in the United States, could you ask Mr. Casible, is there any learnings that we can take away from this, any best practices we can take away from this as we ourselves have our midterm elections coming up next year?
For our situation, dito po sa atin, anong pag-aaral, what can we see, what can we learn from their process?
Unang-una doon yung political party system nila is alive and kicking. Mahalata mo in all aspects of the electoral contest. Yung Republican, Democrat, ganun talaga yung framing nila. Yun dapat ang isa nating matutunan na politics is really about political parties, about programs, about platforms and issues, personalities. This is not about simply you have more money, etc.
Mike, turning over to Sandro, you have some questions for Mr. Casible?
Yes, Sandro.
Yes, Mike. Professor Casible mentioned earlier that if President Obama wins, he is a Democrat, and the House of Representatives is mostly run by the Republicans. They might have a problem agreeing about certain issues like the tax cuts. How do you think the government will go about this? Since we know that the Republicans have a different issue with the tax cuts with as well as with the Democrats.
I'll get to that, Sandro, in a very short moment. But what Sandro Aguinaldo is asking is the area of taxes, which is the separate lines between the Republicans and the Democrat. They seem to have different platforms, different positions. The Republicans seem to want less government, bigger government with Democrats. How does this affect with a no control of the lower house for President Obama if indeed he is as projected?
Well, actually, hindi naman ganun kalaking difference eh. The only difference between the two, yung more government and less government na position, the Republican,
Tax cuts daw sila.
yeah, it affects the tax policy or tax position. The Republicans don't want the taxes, less taxes. The Democrats want more taxes. And that would affect the strategy of facing up to the economic crisis that they are in right now. In the House of Representatives, it would reflect on the budget battle. If the Republicans would have their way, the budget would be less. There would be no taxes attached to it. For Democrats, they want more taxes and more budget.
We're coming to the states that have the biggest PhilAm population, Hawaii, yung West Coast, yung California lalo, and these are where there are a lot of Filipino candidates also taking part. Sa state assembly level, kung hindi ako nakakamali, mga 4. May isang familiar na pangalan sa mga Pilipino, si Ben Cayetano ng Hawaii, who's running now for mayor of Honolulu on a very close race, very close fight. How have you seen Filipino Americans taking part and their success in the American electoral process?
Well, we're already talking here of around 3 to 4 generations of Filipinos in America. And most of them have successfully integrated into American society. So, from my point of view, most of these PhilAms, while they have the roots here in the Philippines, are really more American than Filipinos. We, of course, welcome the fact that they have Filipino roots. But I wouldn't think that American voters are voting for them because they are Filipinos. And I think they see them as just like themselves, American, but with the background of being a Filipino. Just like Mexican, who is also an American.
So wala na yung racial or ethnicity?
Lalo na sa lugar na yun, no? Hawaii, California. Melting pots yung mga yun eh. There are a lot of nationalities there. But I think the way they would like to portray themselves as they're all American.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Professor Casito. Of course, Robert, we'll toss back to you for now and be back in a while.
Mike, just a quick question from Princess. Mike?
Yes, Robert, come again.
Just a quick question from Princess for Mr. Casiple.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Mike, can you still hear us here in studio?
Our override here.
Okay.
Yes, come again.
Okay, klaro na ba?
Yeah, klaro na.
Okay. So I got a question for Professor Casiple, no? Maybe you can ask him what is his fearless forecast on this ongoing trends, no? Despite this ongoing trends.
Okay, last question. Fearless forecast.
Yeah.
Ano po ang call nila? Tinatanong po ni Princess Vivi sa atin. Ano po ang tingin ninyo ang kalalabasan nito?
Well, kahit bago pa nitong election, I'm already seeing Obama retaining the presidency. I mean, if we go by the electoral college process, the voter will not be that close. And from what I've seen so far, I think that would be the case.
Did Romney surprise you na medyo may mga areas din na nakuha niya?
Oh, definitely. But I think it's because of the weakness of the Obama side. For example, the first debate, may mga impact yun eh. Mabuti lang, may nagkaroon ng Sandy. The Sandy factor was a big factor in the eve of the election.
So that's the latest from here. And of course, we do have some interviews with some of the people who voted. When we come back, more results, more information as we continue the coverage of what is happening in the US and UAE. It's Halalan sa USA, dito sa PTV.
Okay, thank you, Michael, and live from SM North EDSA. Meanwhile, we have former Senator Orly Mercado on the line joining us and for this special coverage. Good morning, sir. Okay, while we try and get back former Senator Orly Mercado on the line. Okay, so the fairness for the trending is saying right now, Mike was saying in the polls is that it's trending towards Obama.
Yes. Yeah.
But a while ago he was saying that there's going to be maybe quite a problem between getting the electoral vote and getting the popular vote. Sometimes you do get the electoral vote, but not the popular vote, and that might cause some problems. And as a dual citizen,
like Professor Casipe mentioned earlier, this happened na before kasi si Al Gore, apparently he was the one who won the popular vote. Pero ang nanalo ng electoral vote was George Bush. So si George Bush yung naging president. So pero yun nga, pag iniisip mo, ano yung yun ba yung binoto nila or yung binoto ng electoral vote? So pwede kang magkaroon ng problems doon.
Alright. So, going back nga kay Bill Clinton, the former president of the United States of America, on his take naman regarding ito sa presidential candidates with the re-electionist and this Mitt Romney, sabi nga niya on the interview sa news, sabi nga niya, I'm for President Obama because he's got a much better plan for the future. So, ibig sabihin, pati ito si Bill Clinton is talagang sinusuportahan niya pa rin si Obama despite all the issues, especially itong tinamaan sila ng Hurricane Sandy and itong ang daming crisis in terms of the economy and whatsoever. So still pa rin yung mga tao, malaki pa rin yung paniniwala nila with the president.
Kasi medyo nasubaybayan ko yung presidential debates and nakikita mo na yung stand ni President Obama is for his continuity of the projects and the programs that he's already done. And ito naman si Mitt Romney, ang gusto niya, real change daw. Kasi alam natin, 2008, Barack Obama was promising change for the pero ang sinasabi ni Mitt Romney na siya daw ang may hawak ng totoong change. So then it's either we see the change na hindi pa natatapos ni Obama or a whole different change na ino-offer nito ni Mitt Romney.
Well, I guess right now it's wait and see right now as we closely watch the outcome of this U.S. presidential election. And now we have again Senator Orly Mercado back on the line. Senator? Live. Okay, we have former Senator Orly Mercado live at the SM North EDSA. Good morning, sir.
Yes, of course, Robert, beside me, of course, is not just former Senator, former Ambassador, former Secretary of National Defense, Orlando Mercado. Sir, magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Magandang umaga. Just call me Orly.
Sir, you're teaching now. You're a professor at UP. And when you look at this, how would you describe this to your students?
Well, actually, madalas naman sinasabi na napaka-importante ng eleksyon sa Estados Unidos. Any change of leadership is very important because number one economy and it affects all of us. In terms of foreign policy, the direction of foreign policy as formulated by the administration of the United States government affects us directly. Now, there are two basic changes that are happening in the world today. Yung pagbabago ng liderato ng People's Republic of China, which is slated to hold its every 10-year change of leadership, and this every 4-year change of leadership on the part of the United States. And so we always look at this as having some great impact on us. Ang eleksyon ito, bagamat nasa ibang bansa, ay napaka-importante para sa ating mga Pilipino.
Among the portfolios you had, of course, obviously was defense. And we used to see each other a lot in Palawan when you would go out to Calayan Islands. What's the impact of this, Romney or Obama, considering the territorial disputes between the Philippines in the South China Sea?
I don't think there will be any direct impact as there is a sense of continuity in the foreign policy as articulated by the State Department in whatever administration that we may have. But what we see, I had the opportunity of being the first ambassador to ASEAN, first permanent representative of the Philippines to ASEAN after its charter was adopted in 2008. Now, what we have experienced is a focus on the Asian and more specifically the ASEAN region. Sinasabi nga sa akin nung nandun kami sa Jakarta, kung saan nandun ang ASEAN Secretariat, na noong mga nakaraang mga taon, noong panahon ng mga Republicans, lalo kay Presidente Bush, low level ang pina-attend sa mga konferensya ng mga ASEAN kasama ang tinatawag na dialogue partners katulad ng Estados Unidos. This particular thing has changed. There has now been a on the part of President Obama that the United States is still a Pacific power and its presence has been felt of late. Now, this is important to us because while we are not in a position to predict what is going to happen really, we see that the presence of the United States and also the growing influence of China is something that comes in requiring some levels of balance. Kinakailangan may balance yan eh. Kaya yung mga pagkakataong ito na nakikita natin ngayon is important. A focus of attention on Asia, especially ASEAN, is critical for us in ASEAN, and there is a role that the United States plays there.
So, Mike, of course, ASEAN, you're thinking of Southeast Asia, and in Indonesia, they're not celebrating the election or the candidacy of Barack Obama, but Barry Soetoro. In their mind, he's an Indonesian also. Of course, his sister is half Indonesian. The president does have good ties with ASEAN and grew up here in a way. Does this help in this view of President Obama, which most projections are looking at a possible re-election at this point based on what we're seeing on the exit polls? Does this continue, this friendly relationship with ASEAN?
Siguro naman maliit na bagay kung titignan sa punto de vista ng ilang mga maalam. But we're a very personalistic people in our country. Personal family ties look important. Ang importante lamang dyan, ang makikita natin exposure ni President Obama sa kultura, the culture, and the way we in Southeast Asia live. Having stayed and lived and grown up, spent years in Indonesia, to a great extent exposes you to not only a different culture, but different religions, how to get along with other cultures and other peoples.
Does it give him a better understanding of the ASEAN perspective? Also, his mother was based here at ADB for many years. That also is a factor going back and forth. She worked for the Ford Foundation in Indonesia, but would come to meetings in Manila. There's a family ties, there's a history. Did you see that with candidate Romney?
Well, actually, it cannot be discounted that personal knowledge of other nations and exposure is very important. But this doesn't mean that that is the only requirement. No? All of these presidents and all of the leaders act in accordance to what they determine is the national interest of their nation. And the times when there is a confluence between their national interest, short and long term, with the other nations they're dealing with, I think that is where we can have agreement.
On the West Coast, 5 minutes from now, West Coast of the United States, the polls will close. 82 electoral votes are up for stake. Famous forecast based on what you've seen so far as an ambassador, a senator, and a former cabinet secretary would put it.
In the first place, it's not our country, we don't have that much knowledge, but I think it is common knowledge that California is basically a Democrat, and this might give the bump already in terms of the electoral votes in the United States for President Obama.
Robert Tan, I believe, has a question. Robert?
Actually, that was the question that I wanted to ask, as being a former senator, if he was really watching closely with these elections, how does he see it panning out? And I guess the senator has already answered the question. Actually, Mike, I just wanted to ask, right now, what's the situation at your end as we near the final stages of this election?
Well, if you're asking actual situation here in SM at this party, basically that is what it's turning out to be, from Ambassador Harry Thomas to the American and Philam community. What's happening there now is brunch. They're basically sampling the bounty of America that's being presented to them. But of course, aside from that, they are watching. There are cheers that you will hear when President Obama gets an electoral vote or a state, when the big screen comes up with information about this. That is a general mood of people here. How do these events, when you look at it over your tri-part career as a diplomat, statesman, and of course a member of a political party, an elected official, how do these things help joint relations between countries?
Well, political exercises, as Ambassador Thomas earlier mentioned, is the greatest manifestation of a democracy. But there's also one thing I would like to mention. Having been a television man for a long, long time, I was just reading an Economist lately, and it says that the total expenditure for television ads in this campaign in the United States will reach something like 7.4 billion US dollars combined. Mitt Romney, and that's a lot of money, and I'm afraid the Philippine electoral process on the national level is going that way. The greatest expenditure for those who are running for senator now is in advertising ads and media ads, and this might marginalize those who don't have the resources to participate in what should be the true expression of democracy.
Mike? All right. Yes, Robert. Just a follow-up question on that. Yes, as we see that the $6 billion mark is very, very high expenditures. Anything that we could actually learn from this now that we're going to go through our midterm elections next week? Any reactions or any insights from the former senator?
Based on what you've seen, according to Robert, he was asking, the insights about what is the situation here. Obviously, we are in a period of, how do we describe it? Hindi pa election, hindi pa kalaban, anything goes. So long as they don't say, inoto mo, or i-kampanya mo, or those types of things, electoral process things. But should those also be controlled? Should political ads in the country be more tightly watched? How do you think this can be averted to prevent what you mentioned happening in the United States?
Alam mo, yung expense is too high. I asked a former senator who's now running for Senate. Former Senator Ernesto Maceda. I saw him at the wake of a fellow media man, Jun Bautista. And I asked him, magkano na ba ngayon yung 30-second spot on prime time kung ikaw ay tatakbo na ano? Sabi niya, I just got the rate card. It's 600,000 pesos. One 30-second. Could you imagine that? We will be faced with a battle of funds, and where is that going to come from? And will that compromise the regulatory powers of government and the policy-making powers of government?
And of course, on that note, the former senator, former cabinet secretary, now Professor Orly, as what he wants to be called, and we also know the other title of Mr. President. But when we look at this entire situation, of course, today, what you're seeing here, and as California is expected to jump in, Oregon, and as well as Washington State, those three states with a combined 82 electoral votes are enough to basically end this process. So in about 5 minutes time, the first projections are going to be coming in, and we will come back to you with those when it comes out.
Okay, thank you, Mike and Professor Orly Mercado, for your updates and insights. We'll be back and we'll just take a break.